the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
On the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I am now joined by first-timer, the head football coach of the Farragut Admirals. It's a last name that you are probably pretty familiar with here in East Tennessee. It's Geoff Courtney, coming off his first season coaching the Admirals as the head man. Jeff, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Great, Chase. Thanks for having me on here. Excited to be here on your show with you.
Thank you for being here. Has it settled in? Do you feel like the head football coach, and it's just not weird when people are like, "Oh, the head ball coach"? Like, "Oh, that's me." Like, this is my ship now.
Yeah. I think we're pretty settled in for the most part. It certainly took a little time, even though I knew it was some point that whenever Dad decided he was going to hang up his whistle, that I would maybe like to step into that role and given the opportunity. But yeah, there were still some things that when you got to do it and it's on you for the first time, you got to go through it, and you're the guy that everything falls back on. Yeah, there's still certain things that I learned throughout the year, but it was an enjoyable one. Learned a lot and got to have a lot of great experiences with a great group of kids.
What was the first thing your dad told you when you got the job?
Just be yourself. You know, I think that would be any wise advice of anybody that's going into a new role. You know, whether we were related or not, you know, we're all a little bit differently, or we're all built a little bit differently, I should say. So just don't try to mimic other guys or mimic him. Just be the coach that I've grown into being. So that was probably the best thing.
What's the biggest difference between you and your dad and your styles?
Well, he's always a defensive guy.
Yeah.
I grew up playing offense and quarterback and receiver, and played a little bit of secondary once I got to high school, but I'm always been more of a little bit of an offensive minded guy. There is a little bit difference in the way that whether it's offense or defense, the way I like to attack, you know, the opposing team, where, you know, he was maybe a little bit more eccentric at times, as far as like, just let's throw everything out there and see if we can just, you know, attack all the time and try to confuse the other team's kids, or try to confuse the other team's coaches or whatnot. And I felt like we'd have a little bit more of a kind of scaled back approach to that. We still want to be multiple and we still want to attack, but we're going to try to maintain leverage. We're going to try to maintain principles that we have within our scheme to help us allow us to do that.
Were you able in year one to get the kind of installs you wanted, or is it still just kind of a work in progress, and this year you're going to see more of your fingerprints on this team?
Yeah, well, I think anytime, not just whether it's a new coach or whatever, in high school, you kind of have to tailor your scheme to what your personnel does. And so with us, we were going to have a young quarterback, whether it was going to be a junior or a sophomore last year, playing varsity football for the first time. And so that lends itself to, you know, maybe scaling back some things, and maybe the way you teach things or try to install things, doing it a little bit differently. And so for the most part, I knew it was going to take a growing kind of maturation process. We weren't going to be necessarily fully installed by the time we got to our first ball game, that it was going to take us a few weeks throughout the season. But I thought we were able to progress nicely throughout the year. And I thought we were able to get to a point by the end of the year, we were able to qualify for the playoffs, which was a goal of ours. I felt like we were playing the best that we were playing last year towards the end of the year. And so those were both things that I think were positive, just in the way that we approached last year's football team.
Are you pretty fluid in terms of scheme? And you, like you said, you got to tailor it to your personnel, especially at the high school level. But is it something where you don't have like an ideology offensively, and that you are pretty, like I said, fluid in terms of just what your personnel is and you can tailor accordingly? Or is there just something that there is a schematic, whether it's RPO heavy, whether whatever it might be, that you're certain personnel that you want to live in more so than others? Is that kind of how you are, or is it kind of just there's always going to be a lot of variety to what Farragut's doing under you?
Yeah, I think there are principles of what we want to try to do. We're a quarterback-centric offense, like most people that are in the gun these days, meaning that we're going to give our quarterback a lot of options and decision-making processes in any given play call, whether it's a run game and maybe we've got an RPO built into that run game, whether it's a passing game and we might give him a 3 or 4 man progression to choose to go to, or certain looks, go to a certain player. But we never really just box our players or our quarterback into, hey, this means throw the ball here. This means, this is definite, run. We're going to always try to challenge and stress the defense based on our quarterback's ability to A, make decisions, B, distribute the ball, and then C, try to do that as multiple as we can with multiple looks. And you mentioned variety. I think that's basically what we try to do. We have maybe 4 or 5 things that we do in the run game. We try to do them in a lot of different looks. We try to compartmentalize our passing game for teaching purposes that may look like we have a lot of variety or multiplicity built into our offense. But I think the way we're able to categorize it and teach it, it makes it really simple to learn for our kids.
Well, you talk about the quarterback centric part of it, and I'm always curious because that's always like no matter what in sports, whether it's high school, college, or professional level, one of the common it doesn't matter what year it is. They're going to talk about the NFL draft this year of like how much will it benefit to just throw Cam out there right away if the Titans take him number 1 overall. Does Shador benefit more from sitting? I mean, Peyton goes 3-13 his first year with the Colts, and it's rough. But he learns, and then he goes 13-3 the next year. But there have been some really the David Carr situation early on in Houston where he gets sacked so many times it just destroys his confidence, for lack of a better word. And it's different and it varies from guy to guy. I don't think there's a right way, but as a coach and what you see with Farragut and coaching a young kid to be under center and to go through those progressions to learn how to operate efficiently in an RPO heavy scheme, like, is there just another way outside of just getting reps in game, or is it something where they can sit and learn and still be more prepared come their opportunity?
Yeah, I think there's things that you can do as a coach to try to, cap what they're going to be able to do in their decision-making process. Like I said, the way we install it, whether it's an RPO, whether it's a pass progression or whatever, there is, absolutely they can learn from experience playing in game. And I think that's the number one thing that they learn from is that in-game experience. But still, we try to prepare them for that by building segments into practice, whether it's small group, whether it's individual time, whether it's a group period where we've got multiple positions, but not all 11 out there. And we're trying to simulate a segment of the game that we see to try to help their learning. And then you mentioned the pro game. Like, I think it's really, between high school, college, and pro, there's, miles of differences as far as what guys are able to do and what the amount of resources and time they're able to spend at it. We're kind of, locked where we're at because, we're all teachers during the day. Usually the kids are out there at 3:30. We do some things in the morning before school. But I think there's a good side of that too. Like, just from our teaching background, we're able to then maybe better prepare kids to learn at this age. Whereas college, they got the 20-hour rule each week. And so they're in class, but they still get maybe a little bit more time with their guys on a daily, weekly basis because most times guys are living there on campus. They're there to play football for their university. And then certainly in the pros, they've got limitations, but their job, their 9 to 5 is practice and study and learn and meet and install and rep and then go out and practice. And so they've got, just an inordinate amount of things that they can do as far as a teaching strategy and just the volume of things that they could potentially do. But you mentioned some of those guys that, I still think maybe at the pro level, I think it's tough for guys to go from college to pro and have success immediately if they don't have the right personnel or the talent around and already in the building. But I think you're going to see, or you've already seen, guys like Jaden Daniels, other guys that have come in, Stroud 2 years ago, that come in. You're seeing those more prevalent where those guys are coming in. There's usually 1 or 2 a year that come in as a high draft pick, and they're able to have success, and their team's winning, and they're being super productive. You're seeing more of that now. I think that's just a tribute to maybe guys are doing more in the high school level. Then it filters up into college ball, and then up into the pro game. Because 20 years ago, high school ball, everybody was running the I formation and wing T, throwing the ball 10, 12 times a game. And 20 years ago in the pros, that's not what the game was, And so nowadays, guys at an earlier age, we talked about it before we got on the show here, that just, guys are coming into high school and they're in the shotgun and they're throwing the ball, 15, 20 times in middle school ball, those types of things. That just lends itself, I think, to making transitions up into the upper levels a little bit easier.
What's been the biggest change for you off-season wise, or maybe there hasn't been, in terms of how you've approached this year's off-season versus your first one?
No, just the calendar, just the roles that, you're the head coach at a high school program, and I'm also, heavily involved in our offensive staff and play calling, those types of things. But, Josh Heupel doesn't have to fundraise. He doesn't have to take care of the practice field. He doesn't have to sit in booster club meetings. Not to say that he only gets to just coach ball all day, because I know he's got commitments. But it's still just, you wear a lot of different hats. And so, even just being able to get on here with you, I look forward to this because I'd probably be, in a meeting with the admin, or maybe planning for a booster club meeting, or maybe getting ready to kick off our next fundraiser, whatever it may be. It's just a lot that goes into being a high school head coach.
That makes sense. When you think about how 2024 ultimately went, it was kind of a tale of two seasons for your first year with the Admirals. What I'm curious about, now that you have seen it all play out, you coached it from beginning to end, what would you tell yourself prior to week one about, hey, this is how, if you could tell yourself one thing, what would it be based on what you saw last year?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe be patient. Even saying that, I feel like we did a good job as a staff, trying to be patient as a coaching staff with a young football team, outside of just our quarterback landscape as it was last year. We only had 14 seniors, which at Farragut is about half of what we're used to. And of those 14, 2 kids came out for the first time off the basketball team and wrestling team. So we only had 7 returning starters. And so we were just young all around in most positions. But we knew it was going to take some time. And I felt like there was going to be a point in the season where we could turn that corner. And we finally did there towards the midpoint of the year. Not to say that we weren't ready to go when we kicked off at Kingsport in our first ball game of the year, because we definitely had opportunities to win that game. But just going through the process, living through it, I felt like, we did a good job. Maybe could have done a little bit better job. Maybe could have done 2 or 3 things here a little bit better, or done 2 or 3 things differently. But for the most part, I was happy. Like I said in the beginning, I felt like we were able to achieve one of our goals, which is qualify for the playoffs. But then other than that, I felt like we were playing as well, or as our best that we could play as a team, as a group, going into the playoffs. So really, as a coach, that's all you can ask for. Are the kids being coachable? Are they doing what they're asking? Are they executing what you're asking them to do? And are they going out there and playing confidently and trusting each other and playing well and having fun? Doing so and playing the game of football the way it should be played.
Is that one of the things on the outside? Because that's always interesting in terms of just, unless you're really into it, the fans knowing that, hey, this is a young team. This is a heads up. It's not it's kind of where Tennessee's at right now, where the offense is just, there's blue chip talent, but they're all young. It doesn't mean they're not good. It doesn't mean that you have to drastically change expectations, but it's just, there are cycles in programs, and sometimes there's a little bit more turnover than others. And hey, not only was it your first year, but it's also, like you said, not a lot of returning starters, playing a lot of young guys. It's just you gotta be patient. I imagine you said a lot, you gotta trust the process in 2024, right?
Yeah, and like I said, felt like we did a pretty good job of that. Certainly, we saw the fruits of our labor by the end of the year. But in the same breath, we mentioned that, and I talked to our seniors too last year. Listen, I don't want that to be an excuse for your senior football season to say, well, we were just young. We had we had a bunch of sophomores, first time players playing. I didn't want that to be an excuse. I said, we're going to hang in there. Keep trusting yourself. Keep trusting your coaches. All right. And we got good players that they're going to end up stepping up and being valuable players for us. And things will turn, in our favor. And so surely enough, I think confidence is a big thing in any sport arena, but particularly with high school kids. I just mean that and say you can see confidence come and go in the snap of a finger. And maybe that's the way at all levels, but certainly when you're dealing with young people that are still trying to develop that mental toughness and trying to develop just kind of that makeup that's going to make them a true competitor. But you could just see as soon as we got that first win, and we were able to kind of jump up on someone, and they made a little comeback. We were able to withstand and extend the lead, and then ultimately ice the game away. Like we just knew, like the next few weeks, like our confidence was only going to continue to grow because it was just like a light switch went off after that first game.
What happened? And I guess this is a two-parter. Like, what happened in that Bradley Central game, and then like, did you expect that when you're going through film and you're like going in this game, you're like, you're telling your staff, like, I feel good. Like, I think this is where it could turn. I like this matchup with the Bears.
Yeah. We were coming off of a bye week. We had actually played pretty well the week before going into our bye down at Cleveland, outside of 5 turnovers. I mean, we had turned the ball over 5 times, twice inside of our own red zone, and we're down 24-7 in the fourth quarter. And we knew they were a good football team. They ended up playoff qualifier. And so we felt like each week, even though sometimes the scores weren't dictating that we were improving, we felt like individually, hey, this guy's playing better. This guy's not making the same mistake. This group's playing better. And we just felt like, Bradley Central last year was kind of in a similar boat as we were. And then we felt like, we had an opportunity to go win that game. And we had a couple of our playmakers step up and make big plays that night and really asserted themselves. And not only did their confidence grow, but our entire teams did, as you saw.
When you look at the spring and summer position battles, what are you most excited about? What are the most intriguing battles that are going to play out here over the next couple of months?
Yeah. I think maybe the depth in our line right now. I'm interested to see exactly who's going to grab hold of their position, because we had probably 7 or 8 guys on our offensive line that played significant snaps, whether it was one start or 2 meaningful quarters in a game. We probably have 7 or 8 guys competing for those 5 slots. I think there's 6 seniors in our offensive line group, and most of them have played a lot last year. And then same thing kind of at D-line. We've got probably 4 or 5 guys that are competing for 3 spots there. Then the next thing is like where we are going to replace some graduating seniors. We had Robbie Jacobs, Landon Collins, both of those guys started receiver and in the secondary for us. So I'm excited to see who at our skill positions is going to step up and fill those roles for the first time. I think we've got good candidates, good players that are coming back. They're looking forward to making this year as great as it can be.
Do you like the schedule for 25 for y'all?
I do. It's always challenging. We're never going to shy away from competition. We're going to end up opening the season with Sevier County, who's the defending 5A champs.
Good quarterback.
And great quarterbacks. And we're going to see 3 really good quarterbacks in our first 3 ball games, I think. And I think that helps us getting ready for our region. Our region is always tough. We've added Oak Ridge this year. And so we have
You went there last year with a big win on the road.
Yeah. That was probably the best 4 quarters that we played throughout the entire year was that night. Like I said, that was just a benefactor of what we had done the previous 2 weeks. So our team continued to play better and get confidence with 2 straight wins going into that night. But I like where we're at. I feel like it's not heavily loaded one side or the other. We're going to play some good competition early. We're going to get into the meat of our region schedule. Play Maryville and Bearden in back-to-back weeks. We have a fall break. We have a bye week that's later this year in the fall break, and so we're going to be able to get a little rest later on in the year. Last year, I think our bye week was like week 3 or week 4. And so I look forward to just kind of what we're going to be able to do this year against who we're playing, because we'll be tested.
Well, you mentioned Maryville. That was towards the end of the year as y'all are stacking wins. I mean, you're right there. Maryville was back undefeated in the region and everything. Like, y'all gave Maryville one of their best shots this year outside of their loss to Oakland in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was a good game when they made several plays there that they had to make in the second half in the fourth quarter. But it was just another night where I felt like our kids were playing within themselves, playing confidently. Were making plays and put themselves right there in a position to win a ball game against a really good team.
Final football question for you today, Geoff. Do you like the new seating coming in here this year? Do you like the new system that's going to be unveiled?
Well, I mean, I don't really mind one way or the other. I mean, actually, if I'm going to take my personal opinion into effect here, I kind of like where we are located on the west side of Knoxville. I kind of like traveling west on a Friday night as opposed to trying to get across town. We have made those bus trips up to Morristown, up to Johnson City, up to Kingsport.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes 2.5, 3 hours. We played a game at Morristown one year, and it took us about 2.5 hours to get from where we are, which is normally about maybe an hour. We got there literally within about 20 minutes before warm-ups were to begin. So, so I like it. We're still going to play and get crossover with Region 1 during the first week. But then, get to go see somebody else maybe if you win it in Region 2 or in the second round. Like I said, we've traveled. We've had people come here from great distances, whether it be Chattanooga or the Tri-Cities areas, that we've been either going to or they've been coming to our place in the first or second round of the playoffs. That's just the way 6A, the 6A brackets are. So, there's probably not much of a difference of traveling to Cookeville, Murfreesboro as far as travel goes as there is traveling to Johnson City and Kingsport. And so, good competition. That's what you want. You want to be in the playoffs. You want to be playing against good people. You want to feel like your team's prepared to play big-time playoff games and with the chance to win. And so, ultimately, I've always said this too, like I want our kids, as they develop, I want them to enjoy their high school experience. That's what I remember. I remember the big-time games that you played in where everybody was at. I know there's a narrative that, people don't necessarily come out to first-round playoff games because of some of the matchups and the 1-4 matchups. And sometimes, I kind of would like to see more teams qualify, less teams qualify just to make it a little bit more. You feel like teams actually qualify. We were 4-6 last year, but won 3 key region games. But teams getting in at 1-9, 2-8, so on and so forth. But still, if you're able to get through that first game, I just like the big time playoff, kind of environment. And so if it means we're going somewhere new this year or in the future, I'm all for it, because from where I'm at, the travel is about the same.
And then if you're like Sevier County, you're like, all right, we're good. After back-to-back of Powell and West, you're like, all right, we were in a lot of all-time great East Tennessee playoff games. Let's take a break this year because there's nothing like it. Those just big time one possession games, and it's cold, and it's just great. Like it's just there's nothing like it at the high school level. Final thing for you. This is not football related, Geoff, and these are 2 quick ones I'm curious about. Geoff Courtney gets put in charge. You're like, hey, Geoff, you are in control of concessions tonight here at Farragut. What are you putting on? And you're like, all right, it's kind of like a Masters menu where you you win the Masters in the follow-up year, you get to pick what are you like, hey, this is what I'd like having at the concessions to make my way down the field, get ready for the game. This is what I want to have ready for me. What do you pick?
Well, I'm probably always, you got to have some type of hot dog.
We're on the same page there. But what are you putting on the hot dog?
Well, I've got to have mustard.
Yep.
Maybe some onions.
Okay.
If I want it, maybe 2 days out of the week, I might put chili on it, but usually
Okay.
not.
Have you been to the varsity in Atlanta?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the chili dogs. You're outlining the chili dog here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we might just upstage it and substitute just the traditional hot dog for a brat.
There you go.
But that's kind of where I would start. And then, do you get popcorn? I'm more of a salty kind of popcorn peanut guy, not so much like the cotton candy, those types of things as kind of a side.
I love it. Final thing, we'll get you out of here. It's around spring break time. People are traveling. You get to decide where you're going for spring break this year. Where money is no object. Where's Geoff going?
Ooh, I'm probably taking a cruise.
Okay.
It's probably down to the Caribbean. Just we've not ever done that before.
Mm-hmm.
When we vacation, we typically go to South Carolina or Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had people tell me just like how fun cruises are. How
have you been on a cruise before or no?
No, not been on a cruise. People have told me there's not very much heavy lifting as far as hurdles to do. You just get on and if everything's all inclusive, all taken care of, like you just enjoy your time while you're there. So that's probably what I'm doing if it's my choice for my next vacation.
I love it. Geoff, how do the good folks tuning in here in East Tennessee support everything going on with Farragut Admiral football this spring and summer?
Yeah, I'd say we're getting ready to start spring practice. We've got a blue-gray game coming up here on May 8th. We're going to conclude spring practice with a scrimmage against Halls here at our place. We've got a great website and social media following. You can always check us out at farragutfootball.com. You can visit our handle on X and on Instagram and everything else that we're on that our booster club runs. But I would just say too, just get out and support, your community, whoever it is, whether it's, Farragut or if it's whoever else in Knoxville, East Tennessee, or the state of Tennessee. Just get out and support your high school programs because it's young people and they want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to know that what they're putting their time and effort and resources into is being acknowledged. And so I just think it makes their experience that much better when the people are coming to their games or their practices or their scrimmages. It just makes, a lifetime of memories.
Geoff Courtney, thank you so much for the time, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Yeah, Chase, thank you, man.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.